Hello and welcome to gagrule.net. My name is Wally Sarkisian. Well, before we get into our honorable guest, today we have just published, we named Naira Zohrabian the Woman of the Year, actually Armenian Woman of the Year. She is a very courageous woman. She is in human rights. She was member of parliament, and we believe she deserves that title. And more other Armenians coming in this week and next week. Okay, so today we have the most active, talented man. His name is Vic Gerami. This man started this documentary or film or movie so rapidly. Within months he put all these things together and become the most popular documentary. He got all those awards from film festivals and all over the place. I really can't even count them. Hopefully he could tell us how many awards he got. He's an incredible guy. I have great respect for you and for your energy. So let's welcome Vic Gerami. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you, Wally. Thank you for your generous introduction. I appreciate you, the work that you do as an activist, as a journalist. We're all trying to do our small share as Armenians, to contribute to our motherland, to contribute to our culture, and to see us all sort of come out of this dark and difficult period we're in, perhaps the most difficult one since the Armenian genocide. So I'm grateful to be here to talk about what's happening.
Okay, so one of the reasons we invite you is because I saw this on your Facebook. So we thought, okay, tell us what and how. And so this is what you put on Facebook. I mean, I don't want to read it because everybody can read that. So I'm going to minimize that. So tell us what and how, and what is your next project?
Sure. So here's the thing. We're not, despite the fact that Armenia and Artsakh are facing immeasurable forces, enemies from all sides, who have more weapons, more money, more influence, more power, more lobbyists, we're not powerless. We are resilient. We are Armenian diasporas all over the world. We are educated. We are resourceful, and we don't need to accept anything, and we can work with what we have. There's no reason why we cannot be activists. Every single one of us can be an activist, and we don't have to. Sometimes I hear people say, "Well, I feel like that organization doesn't want me, or is not doing something I like, or that government or that official is not sort of on the same page." Here's the bottom line, okay? If you don't agree with officials, organizations, nonprofits, NGOs, individuals, do it yourself. You can be your one person advocacy organization, advocate, and there's so much. I know that Wally online, people were asking me, well, what can they do? There are a lot of things. One is advocacy here in the US. That is reaching out to our members of Congress, as well as the White House and the State Department, and constantly making sure that we are on their sort of top of their stack, if you will, and that we're pushing them. And we're not going to accept the status quo, because the White House and the State Department have basically been, for the most part, bought by the Turkish and Azerbaijani lobby. But what do? Do we just accept that and do nothing? Of course not. We have to do our own pushing. We have to work with what we have work with the members of Congress that are on our side, whether it be Senator Menendez, Congressman Schiff, Congressman Pallone, Congresswoman Spear, Barbara Lee, Judy Chu, and press and remind them that of the hypocrisy of the Biden administration lifting Section 907 of the Freedom Act and giving Azerbaijan 100 million a year in so-called military aid to secure its borders, which is absurd. Now, that's one thing that you can do. Another one is media, right? So we know the power of media, and letter writing really makes a difference. Writing to the editors and producers of newsrooms, whether it be CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, whether it be New York Times, LA Times, Washington Post, BBC, Euronews, you name it. That makes a huge difference. When they get a lot of letters, whether it's written letters or emails or even tweets, they start to notice, when you call them out on their bias, on false information, regurgitating Azerbaijani and Turkish propaganda, and you put them on check. That's just the second way. Third way is, people say, well, we don't know if we send money, if it gets there, it doesn't get there, and etc. You know what? I've published a couple of articles highlighting organizations that do great work, that I've personally went to Armenia and witnessed what they do. And so, you can revert to those articles, or you can just do your own homework. There are a lot of great organizations that are doing incredible work in Armenia and Artsakh. Just a few would be Knights of Vartan does great stuff. They have a program called Tools for Schools. They renovate schools. Paras Foundation is another one. Aznavour Foundation is another one. So there's no reason why we can't all do something. We can't afford not to, because the alternative is unthinkable. I got back from Armenia about a month ago. In Artsakh, basically they're surrounded by Azerbaijani troops. And as we know, a few days ago, they cut off that one single road, the new one, that goes from Armenia to Artsakh. In Armenia itself, their end game is to take all of southern Armenia from Jermuk down to Sunik. And so in Sunik, for example, they have already occupied a cemetery. They're in Armenia proper, and they keep taking more villages and more land in Armenia proper. And Armenia doesn't have the military power to defend itself. So the situation is a lot worse, a lot dire than even some of us who are constantly in the middle of it now. And certainly even when you're in Yerevan, you don't have that feeling. Even in Yerevan, it feels like everything's okay, but it's not. If you go outside of Yerevan, you realize that. So I know that was a lot to get out, but that's just the start, Wally.
Yes. I don't know, you're still young, but if you remember the first Karabakh War, do you remember that?
Barely. I was very little, but yeah.
Right.
I mean, I remember bits and pieces of it.
Right. But I do. Armenia had this massive earthquake, and also they declared independent. Russia yanked out all the factories. They literally was burning wood, the trees, to warm themselves. In fact, the first demand or things the Armenians wanted, clothes. And I remember where truck loaded of clothes, everybody who has whatever they had to send them because they were freezing. The same time, they were fighting, the war was raging in Karabakh. They had no military, they had nothing. But they had one thing: we must win. And they did. They had the leadership to fight, and they won. It was a surprise to the world even, not just for Armenians, how they won without things. But now, I don't know where you stand, but if you know my things, I always tell it as is. Some people like it. We have now a
I
corrupt
do too.
government that incompetent. Every time he goes to meet Aliyev, all he does, he just sign. I just, where have you seen a prime minister, a president of a country where Armenia is in a dire consequence? 2 years, he never one day he called public news conference. So the people were asking, Telly, you went met in Brussels, you met in Moscow, what did you do? What you came out with it? Nothing.
This last time he didn't sign, which was a good thing, where he said he stood his ground and said,
Yeah,
"I'm not signing
that
this."
was the only thing last 4 years. He just told those Russian, NATO version, said, no, we don't want to be because that was the only thing he did in 2 years.
Yeah.
And so leadership is very important. Yes, I agree. People like you, me, we're doing everything we can, but it's the leadership. It's important in the country has a guts to stand up and work. Sorry.
But Wally, I appreciate your candor. So I am just as blunt and unfiltered. In fact, my online publication and radio show are called The Blunt Post. So this is what I think, and this isn't about defending any one political party or any official, but after the invasion of Artsakh, I don't call it war, I call it a genocidal attack and ethnic cleansing.
I agree.
The nations, the two states of both Artsakh and Armenia were hit so hard, and their losses were so immense, and the enemy so much more powerful, that it's been extremely challenging for the Armenian government to just stop the bleeding, much less go to the next stage of doing some more preventative care and be proactive in some of the other things that we need to do as a nation, such as building back up the military and such. It's been and I don't think I need to tell you this, because I think that Armenia, I always explain this to people, especially non-Armenians. I say, Armenia is in a chess game where we're on the board, but we're not allowed to play because we don't have anything to play with. And everyone else that's playing that chess game are all the powerful nations. Even the US has a stake in Sunni. So Armenia is in a very volatile situation where it has to sort of walk such a difficult and fragile tightrope between all these nations and all the different things that are happening. And listen, we don't have friends. We don't have friends in the region. We don't have friends even internationally. Maybe a little bit France, but even France is more about France's gestures are more about formality than an actual physical act. And I understand those reasons too. Look, France, we don't talk about this, but France too has a stake in Azerbaijani oil, as well as Italy and other nations, UK, of course. It's a very difficult place for Armenia right now, and the silver lining is the diaspora, and that we have to be the guardians to a degree. And I don't want to sound grandiose as if diaspora is there to save Armenia, but we just have to be the guardians to walk Armenia through this difficult situation so that they can start to really transition into some of the long-term solutions. Because long-term solution, as I think no one will disagree, is that Armenia needs to become a military, a militarized nation, because two nations on each side are trying to wipe us out, and Iran's not going to do anything, Russia is not going to do anything, and Georgia is obviously out. So it's just a really difficult time. And I feel like we all have to do our part in walking through this, and also working with what we have, right? So there's this 12-step slogan that says live life on life's terms, meaning accept what has happened and accept what we have and work with that to move forward rather than what it should have been or could have been and things like that. So we are dealing with this extremely volatile environment where every which way we turn, there are challenges. What happened in Ukraine also helped Azerbaijan because the world became even more dependent on their oil and gas. What's happening in Iran has helped Azerbaijan because Iran, which I'm not going to go as far as to say that they're allies, but Iran's own interest in Sunni staying with Armenia, well, that's not going to be as powerful if they have internal issues to deal with. So, we've been, for over 2 years now, we've just been kicked and kicked and kicked. What do we do? There are two options, right? I mean, at the end of the day, there are two options. We can take our toys and go away, or we can work with what we have and push forward and fight and something we're good at and survive.
I wish there are lots of good people in Armenia too, but there are lots of, I don't know, don't say the wrong things, but the problem
look, let me just tell you this. That's also part of, and I get what you're saying, but that too we have to work with, right? What are we going to do? We've got to work with the people who are not cooperative. We've got to work with the people who have other ideas and motivations, because those are the cards that we've been dealt, and we have to work with them until we can go to the next chapter.
It's like you need two hands to clap. If I invite you, if you don't want to come, for example, I'm just give this example. If you don't want to come, what can I do? I can't force you. I can't force you, say, you have to come. I need to talk to you. But this is the problem in Armenia. We in the diaspora doing everything we can, and as I give you in the beginning example, when they were freezing, we were sending them blanket, clothes. I remember I went to my closet, whatever I find warming, we send it those days, but the problem is you need two ways. You cannot work one way. As you mentioned, I asked the chef, the congresswoman, last ANC meeting, I had a chance to talk to him. I interviewed him, I have the video, and I said, what happened if tomorrow, Russia is in a quagmire and they decided they need their soldiers and they take their peacekeeping from Artsakh? What's going to happen? I said, I'm afraid it's going to be butchered. He said, they already butchered them. And he said, the problem, I said, can you guys help? He says, we can, because Armenia is so deeply in with the Russian things. They have military there. Their railways, the economically, everything there. And of course, and they can do. In fact, he gave an example, which I almost forget. He said, Sir Sarkisian, or I think he was, they wanted to become member of European, And so then Moscow called Sarkisian in. He said, no, we're creating our Euro version. So they went into the thing. So I talked these things with things. They know, those politicians, they know everything about Armenia more than I do and you do. And so hope our U.S. will get involved. I doubt it. They might help a little bit here and there. And so as you said, Armenia has no friend but themselves. And when divided now Armenians are, I started this gagrule.net year 2000 because I was in business. I think I told you this, in information technology. Every time I went to customer side and they would ask me, I give my business cards, Sarkisian, oh, Turk, massacre, this. So I thought I'll just create a website. And those days there was barely any Armenian online website. And I said, I put the stuff in. That's how this whole thing started. And so this is, there's a lot of Armenian organization in Washington. They're working like ANC and other. Day and night, those people, they work. And that's how the genocide recognition become, because of those people work day in, day out. But we don't have a cooperation from Armenia. This is our problem. So I'll let you.
I wouldn't say we don't have cooperation at all. There is some cooperation. In fact, I saw it last Thursday at an event by the American Armenian National Security Institute. The Armenian government sent their Armenian embassy in Washington, D.C.'s attaché. The Consul General of Armenia in Los Angeles was there. There is. That is also, it could improve. Listen, I'm definitely, I honor what you're saying and I hear what you're saying. And that can improve too. But all of that, we have to have patience and work with what we have. Listen, when I started making Motherland, and of course, when I was planning my first trip to Armenia, I was on the phone and sending emails to Armenian officials asking for interviews. Everybody, I wanted to talk to, the top people, both in Armenia and Artsakh, and even Ejmiadzin. And I wouldn't get a response. I would send a second one, a third one, a phone call. Nothing was happening. I did, I got a reply back eventually from back then when President Sarkisian was in office, his office. I got a response from Prime Minister Pashinyan's office, but it was not a sort of a green light. It was just a lot of back and forth. First time I was in Armenia, that interview didn't happen. None of them happened. I came back here for a few months, and yes, I do interview members of Congress on my show, so I have rapport with some of them. And I was able to get all the members of Congress that I wanted interviewed for the film, including Congressman Schiff, Congressman Pallone, Senator Menendez, Brad Sherman, etc. And so even when the second time I was going back to Armenia, I couldn't get a lot of interviews. So what I'm trying to tell you is I've been there. I know what that feels like when you are, I would write to their communications teams and their chief of staff and their other staff and say, listen, this is a film that is not touching politics within Armenia. There's nothing about that. It has no room in it.
Yeah.
This is a film about the invasion of Artsakh and what Turkey and Azerbaijan did, just to put them at a comfort level. Nonetheless, I was only able to get eventually 2 short interviews with officials, and I'm grateful for that. So point being is, I work with what I had. It's what I had. I was lucky to get veterans interviewed and refugees and scholars and other people. And the cool thing is, I'm here to say, and this is the sort of almost 2 years later, when I premiered Motherland in Yerevan last month, a lot of people who I had contacted and never heard from came to the premiere, and that was just a really cool thing to see. And even when we had a congressional screening in Washington, D.C., the embassy sent 3 people to it, and they were very, understandably, they were very sort of guarded, if you will, probably skeptical as to what they're about to watch, and what is this film going to be like? Am I going to be attacking anyone? And I remember them; they were very sort of closed off when they came. And when the film ended, the 3 of them walked up to me, and they were so warm and complimentary. We had a long 20, 25-minute conversation. In fact, one of them whose assignment had ended in DC was in Armenia when we premiered the film in Yerevan, and she came to that too. So, people come around. I guess the message I keep bringing on is that we've got to work with what we have, good, bad, and yes, the ugly too sometimes. And because listen, here's the thing, Wally. If Armenia gets invaded completely and Artsakh is gone completely, and Echmiadzin is a mosque, and Gerhard becomes a Azerbaijani bunker, will it matter who we blame? Will it matter who is to blame? When it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying in that post and what I'm saying now is this: don't wait until the day when you wake up and say, I wish I'd done more. Because I think most of us secretly know that we can do more. And that's all I'm saying. And more can be anything. It doesn't have to be with money. But even with money, those that can afford it, give a little bit more than just your standard comfort level.
So you're talking money here, or you're talking organization?
No, I'm talking everything. When I say we can all do more, is we can do everything and anything in our power. If you don't have money to contribute, do the things that I suggested. Call the White House, leave messages, call your members of Congress, keep them on their toes. Write to editorial offices and editors and writers and reporters, and ask them why they're not covering what's happening in Artsakh and Armenia, or if they are covering, why is it biased? Why is it riddled with both sidism and false balance, as we've seen in the last 2 years?
Do you think when you went to do your movie, if wasn't your energy pushing, you think that movie would have been done?
I'm not sure what you're asking me. If you're asking me if
it was based on
determined to get,
it was based on individual. You had this inside you. You pushed it. You made it work. The problem is most Armenians, only I would say maybe 1 or 2% of Armenia around the world are actively involved in anything. Mostly they just sit there and say, oh, look at that Jim, the Vic, he did this movie, he's Armenian, he's great. But before that, nobody knows you. This is one of the big problem Armenian in diaspora. They work very good. I mean, we have many organizations in diaspora. They really work good. In Armenia, they constantly fight each other. They hate each other. This is their problem. And what country you have 35, 40 political institutions? Everybody who his cousin, uncle start a political party. And Armenia is the problem. It's not the diaspora. A diaspora from the day one, we were trying to help Armenia. While war was going on, American University was created. The problem is in Armenia. Armenia has to change.
But Wally, here's the thing. Listen, I think there are a lot of great people in Armenia, including great organizations. Listen, we have to take everything put it in context, right? So when you look at global, world history and how long it takes for evolution to happen, at the end of the day, Armenia became independent in 1991. So there's a lot of Soviet influence that still lingers, right? And that takes a while to go away, and so that's one of the challenges. The second challenge is we haven't gotten to a point where um, enough reform has happened where certain institutionalized bad behavior, if you will, are completely gone. So that sort of, enhances all of that. And then thirdly is this attack um, sort of took us back a few years, and is sort of like a punch in the gut, if you will. But there are I wouldn't put blame on anyone. I wouldn't put blame on Armenia, on Artsakh, on diaspora, on me or you or anyone else. We've got to work with the good, the bad, the ugly, and accept everything as is and try to improve it. And I'm not saying that we don't hold people accountable who do bad things. I'm not saying that we, we just ignore things because they'll just go away. No, absolutely not. And you're right. I made this film because I was determined to make it no matter what. No matter what. I didn't have any funding. There was no studio. I'm not independently wealthy. So I've been working for the last 2+ years. I've been working 12 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week to make this happen.
I could tell.
And so we do what we have to do. And just an example of a organization that works really well, and I've been there and I've seen it, is the Homeland Defenders Rehabilitation Center in Yerevan, which is sort of a veterans hospital, if you will, although it's not just one building. It's a big campus with multiple buildings, including a hospital, a rehab center. They have a career training center. It's such an incredibly well-ran and state-of-the-art facility. I know soldiers that went through that. They were saved there. They went through rehab there. One of them actually still works there in another program that's called Beauty by Soldiers, which is where soldiers make these beautiful art pieces with butterflies. So those exist too. But of course, we hear about just the negatives and such. I just want us Armenians to be more united. Yes, keep people accountable, and yes, we have to fix things that are broken. But right now, the stakes are too high. I just want to see us more united as we move forward in this super volatile time.
United is the word, because before Armenians were united despite of the corruption and all that. They were united. Now Armenians are divided. I don't care who said, unless the situation change, that every Armenian feel comfortable, whether you're in Armenia or diaspora, nothing will change. All our effort, it's useless. Uniting, the only way you could do it, because I've seen this. I saw it the day Armenia become independent until today, how much things change. I used to go in Armenia every year twice. I went in villages and interviewed everybody, parliamentarian and others, all. It was, every time I ask people, even in village, I say, are you able to keep Karabakh? The answer always was, by month. But go look at now. They hate Artsakh. What happened? I mean, I could show you tons of videos, people, not just individual, but leadership, what they say about Artsakh. This is the problem.
Well, here's the thing. Again,
we need a mechanism to unite these people again.
Look, I don't have all the answers. I'm not going to pretend that I do. I don't think anyone does, and it's not simple. It's a process. We didn't get here overnight. We're not going to climb out of it overnight. When something this tragic at this magnitude happens, right? There's a lot of blame to go around, and it's human nature to blame and to point fingers. And I think that when appropriate, people should be held accountable. But but as we move forward, we have to really make. Here's the thing. I'll give you another 12-step slogan. It says, if you're not part of the solution, then you are part of the problem. So you and I can sit and talk and complain about all the problems. Listen, I can do that too. I can do a long list. But what's the solution, right? So what are we going to do to climb out of that? That's where we need to focus on, and not so much on the problem. Of course, again, I'm going to keep saying this. I'm not saying ignore individuals or organizations or institutions that failed, and we need to look at them and see how we can improve them. But as people, we've got to be united. We've got to, one simple way is like we stop saying these like Ambarska High, you're Hayastanti, you're Libana High, you're Syria High. We're just Armenian, for Pete's sake. That's just one way. Another way is to stop calling it a war, because it was not a war, it was a genocidal assault. And we all decide that Nagorno-Karabakh is a name that was given by the Soviets. It's half Russian and half Turkic. So why are we saying Nagorno-Karabakh? Why aren't we saying Artsakh? These simple things, and also just be kind to ourselves. We've got to start being a little bit gentler with ourselves as individuals, and then kind to other Armenians too, because even if someone is a mess, they're still one of our own, and we've got to be a little bit warmer, a little bit more understanding, and just unite as we move forward and tackle this, just incredible challenge that we have facing us. Look, I'm not a warm and fuzzy person, Wally. Don't get it wrong. I'm not some, Pollyanna kind of a person that says this. I'm actually very pragmatic and pretty blunt. But I do think that in this instance, what will unite us is a little bit more understanding and a little bit more sort of going back to our roots and love for our Armenianness, our culture, where we come from, and just know that we will get through this too. So why not just be gentler with each other now, and just walk through this and get this solved, and push and push and push. We should not be advocating anymore. We should be activists now. We have to be more aggressive with our elected officials, with world governments and agencies. We've got to hold people accountable, hold UN and Council of Europe and European Union and CSTO and OSCE and all these organizations that failed us accountable for what happened. So there you have it.
Great. Well, I really appreciate your honesty and your hard work, but I just don't know like how you're gonna unite those people. They're so deeply divided, and unless
you're not going to unite everyone. You're never going to have everyone.
No, you never, of course. Even in family, you can't have that.
But you can do it slowly, and people do come together when there's safe space. When there's safe space. I'll just give you an example. If I had taken it personally and took my toys and walked away after having encountered so many challenges making this film, I wouldn't have made it. And so, my thing was, I knew that once I made it and people who were reluctant saw that I wasn't going to be attacking anyone within Armenia. I wasn't going to touch politics within Armenia, that this was not about that. This was focusing on our two enemies for the most part. When they saw that, now people are coming around, and it's refreshing. And you know what? It's cool. I like to have them come in, to a premiere or a screening, or I meet them somewhere and stuff like that. So Sometimes you've got to do the work, and people come around.
How many
You
awards you
know,
got from those film festivals and stuff like that?
what was that again? What about film
How many
festivals?
awards you got?
Oh God. So I think we are now part of 63 film festivals as official selections. We have won 38 awards. Yeah, and we were shortlisted for Film Independence Spirit Awards, although we were not nominated because the nominations just came out a few days ago. And even though we're shortlisted, we didn't get a nomination, which is fine. It was really cool being shortlisted, and we're now we're Oscar qualified,
I was
and we
going to
are
ask
in.
that.
Yeah, we're Oscar qualified, and submitting to the Oscars was like applying for a job at the Pentagon. It was so complicated. We got approved, and it's now the film is in the Academy's screening room, so their members are watching it for the next step, which is the shortlist. And I don't hold my breath. I have no expectations. I do these things and just sort of walk away. But if we just get shortlisted for the Oscars, it would be a great deal.
Well,
And the film is out now. People can now rent it on Vimeo or on the film's website.
you did amazing job, really.
Thank you,
Never
Wally.
mind you made the product, but the way you sold it, like everywhere and day in day out, and I give you all the credit. Yeah, it
Thank
was
you.
amazing work,
I'm
and
pushy, Wally. I'm pushy.
yeah, you are,
I
and
don't take no for an answer.
I've seen film like spend hundreds of thousands of dollars barely, and your pocket was not that full, but you pushed it, you made it work.
No, I was lucky. I'm blessed to have uh, lots of. This film was made by an army of generous people, mostly Armenian, some non-Armenian, who donated anywhere from $5, literally, to some of my larger backers that had executive producer credit on the film. If it wasn't for the generosity of those people, we couldn't
Mm,
make it.
mm.
So, I happened to be the face of the film, but it was really made by an army of people.
So what is your next project?
Ah, so it's another documentary. I'm staying on the subject. We are. I can't really tell you exactly what I'm focusing on because I can't give it away. But it's in the same topic, but a little bit more specific. I zone in on one specific topic, or I should say, an element of this genocidal assault. To just continue to bring recognition and educate policymakers and journalists and activists and diplomats on this because as you and I know, I mean, every day you meet someone that has no clue. They have just no clue. You tell them something just like Ukraine happened 2 years ago, a couple of doors down, and they are just perplexed. They have no idea what you're talking about. So I'm glad that there are a lot of documentaries about Artsakh. Many have been made, like at least 7 or 8 that I know of. We can use more. The more, the merrier, because each one is unique and each one can reach a different type of an audience. We just gotta like push and educate people and
But do you
not
think,
give up no matter what.
but do you think, I don't want to be negative here, but do you think those documentaries helps?
Everything helps, absolutely. Is it like the savior? No, of course not. You just have to put it in perspective. Every little bit helps because some people see a documentary, but then they also then come across something else, and the two and two they put it together, and it gets them to move. Sometimes a journalist will watch a documentary. Let's say a journalist writes for Washington Post or New York Times or whatnot, And if they come across some policy or some decision in DC that has to do with Armenia or Artsakh, they have a little bit of a reference. So it's all kind of connected, right? So it's not just one thing or another. It's all of it together. Absolutely help. Feature films even help too. Scripted feature films help. Um,
Have your
uh,
have your film crossed to the non-Armenians?
Yeah, I mean the film I made the film specifically for non-Armenians. So the way I've made it with we're 8 chapters is really for a 25-year-old in Ohio who's never heard of Armenia or Artsakh. So it's really designed to capture those audiences. We've had non-Armenians of anywhere from half to 3/4 in our screenings. Of course, not the one in Armenia, but all the other ones, whether it was in, the premiere at the Raleigh Studios Hollywood or the Glendale screenings, or when we went to DC or Philadelphia. Yeah, a lot of non-Armenians have watched it and have given great feedback. I think
That's
one of the best feedbacks was someone told me that the film made a very complicated issue very simple to follow. Another really cool one was a couple of days ago, I received an email from Baroness Cox, whom we all know, who I called Armenia's godmother. She sent me the most beautiful email because she'd seen the film. Of course, I'd interviewed her for the film. So yes, it's reached a lot of non-Armenians, and that's my goal.
yeah.
My job isn't done. This film had two sort of phases. The first one was to make it, and the second one was to distribute it and get people to watch it. So now it's really about getting people to watch it. I just agreed to do a screening at UC Irvine. There was a
When
screening
did
that I
you
couldn't
did
go
you,
to in Ohio.
did you do in
Um,
Irvine, or you're going
I'm
to?
sorry.
In you
They haven't worked that out yet. It's either going to be on the UC Irvine campus or it's going to be at the Irvine City Hall chambers. A couple of organizations are working together to make that happen.
yeah.
And I'm just trying to get the word out that you can just go to motherlanddoc.com and watch the film there too.
Yeah, yeah, that it's good. I think UCI, there's lots of foreign students, so that will be a great place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there is an Armenian, he's professor there. Maybe he could help.
Well, one of them, Kevin, was a physics professor.
That's what I was
Uh,
going to say.
yeah, Kevin is one of the people that's, or actually, he's the lead person who's arranging all of that.
Yeah, yeah, he's a good guy.
Absolutely.
He always work for Armenian cause and stuff like that.
No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
So yeah, it's, any way I can push, it's trying to get write-ups and reviews in mainstream publications, sending it to, we've had press screenings. Yeah, definitely. We want non-Armenians to watch this. We want, key people to watch it.
yeah. I think
So
Vimeo,
yeah,
yeah,
you
yeah,
can
yeah,
rent the
Vimeo.
video for $9.99
Yeah,
for 48 hours.
yeah. The best place is bring it and show it in the schools and other places. So yeah, I think you should push at the schools too.
Yeah, I'm open to it all. It's just for the most part, I'm a one person.
But it was really, really, you did great job. It was just
Thank
the
you.
way you synchronized it. It was just not your regular film or movie or documentary. It was well designed. It's just amazing.
Thank you, Wally. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I'm glad you liked it. And
yeah. I'm sure everybody liked it. Yeah, but I
you know,
never had the chance to come one of your screening because always there is like even the Greek. They had this movie. They call it Lethal Genocide. They invite me. They were in Los Angeles. but I couldn't go, you know, and it's
Yeah, it's
that
tough. There are too many things happening all the
I know
time.
it's just you don't know which one to pick, you know.
Yeah,
And then I'm in
yeah,
Orange County. It's not easy to go to Los Angeles, you know. The traffic is
yeah,
nightmare. Yeah. Okay,
absolutely.
so
Yeah,
I'll give you, if you want to say things, please do, and we'll keep this your post, and hopefully next time we meet you, so we see the what you did about it.
sounds good. I
And if
like
you,
that.
I'll let you, I'll give you like a last word.
Just go to motherlanddoc.com. That's motherlanddoc.com. You can watch the film there, but you can also watch the trailer and get info, look at the cast, filmmakers, and all of that good stuff. And thank you, Wally. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's always good to have those kind of discussion, you know, because
Absolutely.
yeah, and I just like to see one thing happen: Armenians unite. This
Amen.
hatred to be removed. But other than that, it's if you don't unite, there's nothing you could do, nothing accomplished. That's how they win the first Karabakh war. You know,
Absolutely.
I have so much faith that if tomorrow Armenians united and they have some leader really believe in Armenian cause, they could take back Shushi, Hardut, all that. I guarantee you, because I know this things is doable. But I know this war, we lost it. I don't want to even get into it. So and I appreciate your hard work, and I appreciate your
You too.
trying to push this cause. My heart, and I think all Armenian heart, bleed for people in Artsakh. I mean, I every night I think
Absolutely.
about those people, you know. And they, I mean, can you imagine you're living and surrounded by people, and you don't know what is your faith gonna be? Can you imagine? Put
Yeah.
yourself in there.
Awful. It's
It's just
awful.
yeah.
We can't forget or give up on Artsakh, and we have to keep pushing.
Yeah. It's a nightmare. But thank you very much for coming. I hope to see
Thank you,
you
Wally.
again.
Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.